There was a huge scandal in the office of restaurateur and entrepreneur Jack. The elderly father invited his sons to his office for some important conversation. He looked at both of them and said, "Danny, Kyle, I need to talk to you. I'm old now. I'm almost 70 years old. I've been working and developing my business all my life, and you know how hard it's been for me. Once I was just a cook in the city canteen, and that miserable cafe didn't cost a dime when me and your mom bought it. And now it's replaced by the famous restaurant Charlie. So many famous people come to my restaurant. So, children, it's time for me to retire from business. I want to enjoy my life, at least in my old age. Besides, my health is getting worse, and I can't work as hard as I used to. I've been thinking for a long time about who would run my business, and I've made a decision. Danny, you're going to be the boss of the restaurant. You're older, you have a professional education, and you're calm and rational by nature. Kyle, you're gonna learn everything from your brother. You're young, reckless. Your blood's boiling, you need time to grow up. The business doesn't like spontaneous decisions. You have to be calm and focused." The oldest son understood the responsibility and replied, "Thank you for your trust, Father. I will do my best not to let you down. I understand how much you love this restaurant." A Kyle Razzo's Lilsiu I stall scandalet. I didn't expect anything else. He's your blood son. So you gave him everything and left me with nothing. Okay, Daddy, I'll prove to you that he doesn't deserve any of this. The guy ran out of the office like a madman and rushed to his fancy car, got behind the wheel, called someone, and started complaining. He gave everything to Danny. I hate them both. If my mother were alive, she wouldn't have let this happen. But I'll do anything to make him fail. I'll ruin their lives. Danny took all the papers and invoices and went to his room to analyze them. Jack sighed heavily, poured himself a cup of coffee, and sipped it, enjoying the hot drink. He had not yet recovered from the quarrel and kept thinking, they are both my kids, but they are so different. Danny was calm from childhood, studied diligently, and obeyed his parents. But Kyle was always a bully. No one could get along with him. He studied poorly, skipped classes, and even now, when he's about to finish the university, instead of preparing for graduation, he only goes to nightclubs and wastes my money. I can't entrust him with the business. He'll bankrupt us. Anyway, Kyle will calm down. It'll be a good lesson for him. My wife spoiled him when he was a child. She allowed him everything and never denied him anything. And I couldn't do anything. I'm not his father. Kyle is completely out of control. He doesn't know how to deny himself anything, and he doesn't understand what responsibility is. I always raised Danny in strictness, personally monitored his studies, and didn't spoil him much. So now he's smart, calm, and reasonable. I think my son will not fail, and the restaurant will still be the most popular place in the city. Danny really started to work eagerly, actively delving into the business, examining purchases and reports himself. But he lacked toughness. After all, by nature the man was soft and calm. He was sympathetic, so he was guided by kindness. Employees quickly realized this and began to take advantage of it for personal purposes. They took time off very often, came to work later, or were brazen and lazy. But the manager, Benjamin, quickly stopped such frivolities. He equalized the balance in the team and didn't like or sympathize with anyone but himself. He instantly put lazy employees in their place and strictly monitored the work process, so the overall service and income of the restaurant were on the same level. Danny liked to work around the restaurant or kitchen and watch the staff working. He really liked one girl who was washing dishes. She was young, pretty, and very modest. She reminded him of a princess from a fairy tale. She never talked and never went outside to smoke. Sometimes she could only sit down, take a break, and drink tea. But Benjamin didn't like her either, like everyone else, and sometimes reprimanded her just in case. Although the girl worked properly, there was nothing to complain about. The manager mentioned her once in the conversation. She was hired recently. Her name is Megan. She's a bit strange. She doesn't say anything about herself. She's silent all the time. But at least she's not lazy. One day Danny watched an interesting situation. Megan asked the chef, "What is the most expensive and delicious meal on our menu?" The man hesitated. "I guess Japanese scallops in sauce or lobster thermidor." The girl thought about it and asked another question. "And what's the most delicious dessert?" "I think it's chocolate cake or strawberry tart. It's really delicious." "Did you decide to treat yourself?" "I'm afraid half your paycheck won't be enough to pay for it. I need to please a very special person. It's important to me. If I order the cake and scallops, how much will it cost?" The cook scratched the back of his head and replied, "Well, at least $200. The girl hesitated because that was a lot of money. But then she pulled out the money and counted it. Danny felt so sorry for the girl that he approached her and said decisively, "Put the money away, Megan. Consider it a bonus for an excellent job." Megan almost wept. "Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much. I'll work even harder." A happy Megan took the delicacies and went to change before going home. The manager frowned and voiced his displeasure. "You shouldn't do that, Danny. You give such expensive delicacies to the dishwasher. What would other employees say? It's not right." But the new owner thought it was a trifle. But he decided to follow Megan and see who she would treat with such delicious meals. He didn't know why. He just got very curious. Danny wasn't the best detective, so if Megan hadn't been in such a hurry, she would definitely notice him right away. But she ran as fast as if she were being chased by dogs. When she approached the gloomy orphanage building, Danny was dumbfounded. There was a 5-year-old boy waiting for her on a bench. Megan hugged him, kissed his cheeks, and cried, stroked his skinny shoulders. The child snuggled up to her, then took the bag of treats, waved at her, and reluctantly went inside. Megan was sitting on the same bench and crying bitterly. Danny sat down next to her and asked quietly, "Excuse me, is this your brother or your son? Tell me, it will make you feel better." There was confusion on Megan's face. She was embarrassed that the restaurant owner saw her like this. "Danny, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you just happened to be passing by. Just don't tell anyone. Okay, I don't want anyone to know." Danny turned serious. "I promise I won't tell anyone unless you want me to." Megan wiped away her tears and said, "Yes, this is my son Alex. And I also have a second son, Peter. They are twins. But Peter is sick now, and it's their birthday today. My heart is breaking into pieces. They have a mother, but they live in an orphanage. That food from the restaurant was for them. I wanted to please them somehow. If it weren't for my sons, I'd probably kill myself. I have no more strength." Danny was shocked, but pulled himself together and cautiously asked, "But how did this happen? Why are your children here? You don't seem to drink or even smoke." Megan sobbed. 8 years ago I came to the city from the village to enter the university. I was provided with a dormitory. I entered the pedagogical university, and my dream was to be a school teacher like my mother. I finished the first year and successfully passed the exams. I was so happy. Life seemed wonderful. And then I met Mark at my friend's birthday party. He's from a rich family. His parents are owners of a large gas station chain. I didn't even notice how I fell in love with Mark. He was like a fairy tale prince. He showered me with flowers and gifts and was tender and sincere. All the girls in the dormitory envied me when he came to pick me up in a fancy car. My friends used to say, "Megan, don't miss your chance. If you marry him, you'll win the lottery of this life." Anyway, I couldn't resist, and a whirlwind romance started between us with all its consequences. It was like in a cheap soap opera. I got pregnant. I thought Mark would be happy. We'd get married, but I was wrong. He was frightened and immediately told his parents about it. Since that day, my life has become a living hell. His father, Vincent, began to intimidate me and told me to terminate the pregnancy. He accused me of getting pregnant purposely to become part of a rich family. Anyway, Mark and I had a fight when I refused to get rid of the baby. But his whole family started threatening, saying that they wouldn't accept the baby and that I shouldn't blackmail them with it. I was terrified when I was told at the ultrasound that I had twins. I wasn't ready for that. I had to take an academic leave at the university and go to work part-time to save at least a little money for childbirth. I also had to move out of the dormitory, so I rented a room on the outskirts of the city. I thought that at least my parents would understand me and support me, but no. My mother told me that I disgraced them. My father kicked me out of the house. Since then, I'm all alone. No one needs me. After childbirth, I had no money at all, and I couldn't get any job, but I still tried, for the sake of my children. With all the money I was able to save, I purchased a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. I was so happy to have my own apartment. My children were surprisingly calm. I love them more than life. But there wasn't enough money. I tried to write essays for students at night, but I could only earn money enough for food and not enough for everything else. I had to ask volunteers for clothes for the kids, and sometimes neighbors gave me something. But that was not the worst part. That's when Mark's father decided to hit me with a real blow. He fulfilled his promise and gave my babies to the orphanage. Danny couldn't believe it. Hell. Why? Usually, children are taken away from alcoholics or drug addicts. But you don't look like you have any addiction. I don't understand anything. Megan grinned bitterly. You're a rich man, so you should know that nowadays money and connections rule the world. One day I asked my neighbor to babysit the babies while I went to the grocery store. It was the day of discounts. I wanted to buy some cheap groceries. I was only away for an hour, but when I came home I was shocked. Everything in the apartment was upside down. There was dirt, cigarette butts, and empty wine bottles on the floor. And the guardianship service took my babies away. I started screaming, scandalizing. I couldn't believe it. But these two women, accompanied by the police, were unstoppable. They claimed that they allegedly received regular calls from neighbors that I was drinking, not taking care of my babies, going out at night, and leaving my babies alone. I rushed to my neighbor so that she could refute this nonsense, but she confirmed it, and the babies were taken away. They've been in the orphanage for a year, and there's nothing I can do about it. I've been going to all the authorities, but it's all in vain. I cry every day, and the kids too. When I see them, it's even more painful. My heart is torn to shreds. Moreover, Peter is sick, and I don't even know if anyone is treating him. My pain cannot be expressed in words. Danny kept asking, so why would Mark's father separate you from your children? I don't get it. You didn't file for child support. You didn't demand any money, right? Megan replied. He decided to run for mayor, so he and his family needed the perfect reputation. I was like a bone in their family's throat. Supposedly I could reveal that their son had abandoned 2 children. So he decided to get rid of all the risks in advance. Everyone thinks I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and no one knows whose kids are in the orphanage. But even if I wanted to tell everyone the truth, who would believe me? So I had to get a job as a dishwasher at a restaurant on the other side of the city so no one would know anything about me. Are you gonna fire me now? Of course, you are. Why would you need an employee with that kind of background? Danny shook his head, trying to process what he'd heard, then answered quietly, you shouldn't say that, Megan. Not all people are mean. I'm not going to fire you. Moreover, I'll try to help you get your kids back somehow. It's a blatant injustice for a mother and children to be separated. You know, I believe you. I'll try to find out everything. Don't worry about anything and come to work tomorrow as usual. Megan exhaled and thanked her boss. Thank you for listening and believing me, because I was sure that the whole world was against me. From that day on, Danny and Megan became friends, and he learned everything about the children's horrible dad. And then he got another surprise. It turned out that Mark was his brother's best friend. He'd even seen Mark a few times, the narcissistic rich guy. But Mark was very charming and handsome, no wonder Megan fell in love with him. Danny even tried to talk to Kyle about it. "Hey, Kyle, listen. It turned out that your friend, Mark, abandoned his pregnant fiancée and then put his children in an orphanage. You should talk to him and make him understand that it's not right to separate a mother from her children." But Kyle only frowned. "Why would I do that? It's his own life. It's none of my business. If he abandoned her, then she deserved it. He never told me anything like that. Maybe she lied, and it's not even his kids. Girls are very cunning, you know. They're trying to get into a rich family through the bed. Mark has a fiancée, Marie, the daughter of a mall owner. Everything else is none of my business." Danny was upset, but decided not to give up and solve the problem legally. He asked his friend Anthony for help. Anthony graduated as a lawyer. He was the best at the university, so maybe they could find a way out together. The guy didn't understand why he was so attracted to Megan. He was drawn to the girl like a magnet. He often went to the kitchen of the restaurant when she was at work, put chocolates in her pockets, and even went to the orphanage with Megan a couple of times, and met Peter and Alex. The boys were funny and smart, but very sad. They hugged Megan and kept asking when she was going to get them out of there. Alex would say, "Mummy, we don't like it here. We want to go home." "Why can't we go home?" They constantly mock Peter because of his glasses. "I don't let them offend him. I've already fought with them twice. The kids here mean. We have no friends. Take us away, please." Megan cried, stroking her sons and wailing, "I'd take you away right now, but I can't. Be strong. Don't give up. I believe that soon we will be together. I'll visit you again next weekend. What can I buy for my boys?" But the boys replied sadly, "We don't need anything. We want to go home." And then they started crying. And Megan couldn't control her emotions either. Danny's heart could not withstand the heat of emotions, and he decided to intervene and said decisively, "Okay, stop crying. Peter, Alex, listen to me. I promise you that soon your mom will take you away. Don't cry. Alex, you are a brave boy. Protect your brother. If anyone hurts you, tell me. I'll take care of it." The boys looked at each other in surprise and asked, "Who are you?" "Mom's friend. From work." The man winked and replied, "Yes, I'm your mom's friend. We work together. My name is Danny, so I'm not going to hurt you." The boys shouted, "Cool. Thank you. No one will ever hurt us again." On the way back, Megan said, "Thank you, Danny. You're a wonderful person. I was completely disappointed in people, but it turns out that there is still kindness and support in this world. The children liked you very much. Of course, they lack fatherly love and protection, but I can't do anything about it. I have to lie to them every time that soon I will take them away. But in fact, I have no idea if they will ever give me my children. And it's so scary." Danny replied, "Don't say that. And don't give up. My friend is a lawyer. He promised to help. Everything will be fine. Just trust me." "Got it." Megan blushed. Her heart raced. And she replied quietly, "Got it. I trust you." Danny sighed. "Oh, Megan, you don't belong in the kitchen. You're smart and well-educated. You need to go back to university, finish it, and find a decent job. I understand that you don't have time for this now. You need to save your children. But we'll come back to this conversation." The girl was so pleased with Danny's care and attention. She felt that he liked her, and it was mutual. But after Mark's betrayal, she was afraid to trust men and start new relationships. After all, Danny is also rich, and she is just a beggar with 2 children. Nothing can ever happen between them. While Danny was trying to help Megan get the kids out of the orphanage, Kyle was digging a grave for his brother diligently. After that conversation, he immediately found out that his brother was helping that dishwasher. It wasn't just compromising information on Danny. It was a ticking time bomb. Kyle didn't want to miss this opportunity and immediately went to his father's house. Jack was in his office, sorting out folders with documents. He looked at Kyle in surprise and asked the usual question, "Hey, Kyle, how much?" But the guy pretended not to understand the question. "What are you talking about, Dad?" "Well, you're here for the money, aren't you? Did you already waste all the money I gave you last time?" That was fast. The guy pretended to be offended. "No, I didn't. Do you think I'm not interested in anything other than money? I came here to warn you about the danger. I guess you don't know anything. Danny is having an affair with the dishwasher from the restaurant. She's an alcoholic and a drug addict. Social workers even took her 2 kids away from her because of it. I heard she's also a thief. I just wanted to warn you that the business you've carefully built your whole life could collapse in an instant. Danny doesn't really care about the restaurant at all now. He spends all his time with this alcoholic woman." Jack looked up and even took off his glasses. "What are you talking about, Kyle? Are you trying to slander Danny out of jealousy? I don't believe my son is communicating with the dishwasher. It's a disgrace. He's not like that." Kyle grinned. "Do whatever you want. I warned you. The whole restaurant is already talking about it. There's no business savvy in him." Danny turned out to be weak-kneed. He saw a beautiful woman and lost his head, forgetting about our restaurant. "You said yourself, business doesn't like that." Jack got angry and pounded his fist on the table. "Stop bad-mouthing your brother. I'll talk to him myself." Kyle just smirked and left, rubbing his hands together happily. He was a great manipulator and saw that his father believed everything he said, and now Danny would be in trouble. Everyone knew about Jack's stern nature. Jack got nervous and immediately drove to the restaurant, burst into the office, and started from the threshold. "Hi, son. Is that true that you're dating a dishwasher? An alcoholic whose kids were taken away from her by social workers? I can't believe it. Tell me it's not true." Danny felt offended and replied firmly, "Hi, Daddy. Actually, this is my personal life, and no one has the right to interfere with it. Not even you. Yes, I like Megan. She's not an alcoholic. She's been slandered, and her children have been illegally taken away from her. And I am going to help her get them back. And even if I did decide to marry her, is that forbidden? Or is a dishwasher not a human being? Do you even know what she's like? You're judging her without even knowing what she's like." Jack completely lost his temper and began to shout. "So, it's true. You're in love with this dirty girl with a shady past. Danny, what the hell are you doing? Fire her immediately and come to your senses. You're a restaurant owner, the son of a famous businessman. Don't disgrace my name. Otherwise, I'm going to remove you from your position and give the restaurant to Kyle. Do you understand? I won't tolerate this. It's either me or that dishwasher. Make up your mind now." Danny turned pale and clenched his fists. He was so upset that his father was pouring mud on Megan. He silently sat down at the table and began to write something nervously. Then he held out a piece of paper and shouted, "Whatever you say, Dad. It's a letter of resignation. You're obsessed with money, just like Kyle. You see nothing but money and measure everything by it. I'm not gonna let you say that about Megan. I won't let you hurt her. And I don't want to see you anymore. I can live without your money. Goodbye." The boy left the office. Resentment was burning his soul. How could Daddy do that? Megan was right. This world has gone crazy. Jack immediately fired Megan. He made it clear that no one can have affairs with his sons, and he even insulted the girl in front of all the employees. The girl was working home and sobbing when she got a call from Danny. "I know everything. I'm sorry, Megan. Dad found out everything and fired me. And you," the girl said through her tears. "Thank you, Danny. You did everything you could to help. But now I've lost my job because of your mercy. Your father humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm so sick of everything. I'm exhausted. I don't want to live anymore. Danny realized from her voice that she was on the verge, got scared, and shouted, Megan, honey, don't do anything to yourself. Where are you? Stay where you are. I'll be right there. Danny was running, looking for Megan on the way, but she was nowhere to be found. So he rushed to her apartment, as she had mentioned where she lived. He knocked for a long time. No one opened the door. Then he pressed the handle and the door opened. The guy entered without taking off his shoes and shouted, Megan, where are you? Honey. Megan was lying almost unconscious on the bed, and there were empty blister packs on the nightstand. She took all the pills she could find at home. There was also a note, I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore. At first, Danny wanted to call an ambulance, but he immediately stopped himself. She doesn't need it right now. They'll take her to a mental health facility. And after that, she'll be declared insane, and she'll never get the kids back. He grabbed the girl and dragged her into the bathroom, started pouring water into her mouth until she started to vomit. This torture lasted for a long time until he rinsed out her stomach, and the woman finally came to her senses. He washed her like a little girl and whispered, What have you done, silly girl? What about the children? You're their mother. They need you. I need you. Do you hear me? He shook her and kept repeating these words. She resisted at first, but then relaxed in his arms, hugged him, and cried, I can't live like this anymore, you know. I can't live without my sons, and I don't want to. I can't take them home. I don't have any more strength. Danny hugged her tenderly, stroked her hair, and whispered, I know, sweetheart. I know how much you've suffered, and how hard it's been for you. But you are not alone anymore. Now you have me. Do you understand? We're together now, and I won't let anyone hurt you. It's over. Trust me. I'll help you get your kids back. Don't doubt it. I'll be by your side. I don't care about money and the opinion of my father and everyone around me. You're the best person in the world to me. Just trust me. Okay? And don't ever do that again. I was very scared. Don't worry about money. I have a lot of money in my account, and I have a good education. I'll find a job quickly. Everything will get better, my dear. You'll see. Megan snuggled up to him like a child and nodded, and she felt relief in her heart. She whispered, Thank you, Danny. You saved my life. I almost made an irreparable mistake. Only now do I realize it. If I die, it won't make life easier for Peter and Alex, who will take care of them. Forgive me, please. When you are with me, I feel peaceful and calm. Maybe everything will work out. Danny, with the help of a lawyer, developed a plan. Megan's neighbor confessed that Mark's father paid for her perjury. So she lied and said that the woman was not taking care of the children. They threatened the neighbor with criminal prosecution, and she told the truth in court. The children's opinion was also taken into account. Peter and Alex started crying and asking to go home, saying how much their mom loved them. Danny also testified and characterized Megan as a responsible employee with no bad habits. With joint efforts, the children finally returned to their mom. Megan was happy. She never left the kids for a second. Even at night, she would get up in a cold sweat and check if the kids were still there. She kept having nightmares that she was alone again and her sons were at the orphanage. Danny visited them every day, and gradually he and Megan developed not just sympathy, but deep, real feelings. She really was a hard-working woman and a great mother. The kids were always clean and neat. The apartment was always tidy, and there was always a delicious dinner on the table. They began to live together. The kids liked Danny, and soon began to call him Daddy. When it happened for the first time, it was so unexpected for him. Alex ran up to him and simply said, Daddy, let's go eat. Mommy made a pie, but she told me to wash my hands. Danny felt so warm at heart. He didn't even expect that he could love these children so much. He picked the kid up in his arms and replied, Let's go, son. It felt so good to say it. He felt important and needed. Danny did not sit idle. He quickly found a job in another restaurant as a manager, so he was now providing for the family. He persuaded Megan to return to university by correspondence and found her a part-time job as a librarian at the school. The family lived friendly. They didn't need a lot of money to be happy. Every evening they played with children or watched movies, and on weekends they went cycling together in the park. It seemed that all troubles and hardships were behind them. And yet Danny missed his father, even though he was still mad at him. Kyle began to run the business and immediately felt himself almighty. He had no respect for the staff. He could fire a famous chef or an accountant with many years of experience, and he could offend anyone for no reason. And most importantly, instead of developing the business and investing in it, Kyle wasted all the money that flowed into his pocket. In just 3 months, he managed to bring the restaurant to bankruptcy. His father was desperate and regretted his decision. Deep in his heart, he knew that he was wrong, that he offended his eldest son for nothing. But he was stubborn and arrogant by nature, and he hesitated for a long time to apologize. But he found out where and how Danny was living. But when Kyle began to take drugs, and Jack noticed it, he realized that he couldn't hesitate. He kicked him out of the restaurant and went to Danny to apologize. He got Megan's address from the HR department and immediately went there. He expected to see a creepy place with cockroaches and alcoholics. But the building was new, with a nice, well-kept garden. He rang the doorbell and waited. Finally, the door opened, and 2 little boys showed up on the doorstep and said in unison, "Hello, I'm Alex, and I'm Peter. What's your name? Are you here to see our mom?" The man was puzzled. He had already forgotten how to communicate with children. His own children had grown up long ago. So he asked seriously, "I am looking for Danny. Does he live here?" The kids immediately shouted, "Daddy, come here. Some mister is here to see you." Jack flinched when a surprised Danny came to the doorstep and asked, "Dad, what are you doing here? If you came here to yell and humiliate me or Megan, you should leave. I'm happy with Megan. We have a friendly family, and I won't let you interfere with it." The elderly businessman was so ashamed, so embarrassed. He said quietly, "Forgive me, son. I was wrong. I offended you for nothing. On the contrary, I came to apologize. Will you let your father into the apartment, or are we going to talk on the doorstep?" Megan looked out from behind Danny's shoulder and invited him in. "Come in. The apple pie is almost ready. Let's have tea. Alex, Peter, show the guest where the bathroom is. And wash your hands too. I'm waiting for you in the kitchen." Jack went to wash his hands and looked around. The apartment was clean and cozy, smelled of pastries, and the kids were tidy. Maybe Megan is not that bad. She didn't look like an alcoholic. Megan was a little nervous, wondering why Danny's father had come. Was he trying to break them up again? He stared at her so intently. Everyone sat down at the table. The atmosphere was a little tense. Danny was still mad at his father, so he didn't know if he should talk to him frankly. Megan also kept silent. She was worried about her family, and only Alex and Peter were talking. "This is our last year in kindergarten, and soon we will go to school. Daddy recently made the swing in the yard himself. So you're our grandfather, right? Why didn't you come to us before?" Jack blushed and answered awkwardly, and thought to himself, "Wow, they call my son Daddy. They love him like he is his real dad, and he's glowing with happiness. I'm so stupid. Why did I hurt my son? I insulted his fiancée. How can I ask for forgiveness now? I'm ashamed. And the kids are wonderful and so clever." When the kids had finished eating, Megan said, "Okay, kids, Daddy needs to talk to Grandpa. Let's go read a book about pirates." Megan and the children went into the room and closed the door to the kitchen. There was an awkward pause. Neither father nor son dared to be first to speak. Danny couldn't stand it. Took a bottle of cognac, uncorked it, poured it into small shot glasses, and handed one to his father with the words, "Okay, shall we took, father? We both need it now." They drank, ate lemon, and Jack started, "Forgive me, son. I am so guilty, and I don't know how to beg your forgiveness. I was blinded by rage. You know my hot temper. Kyle told me that Megan is an alcoholic and a thief, and that her kids live in an orphanage. I thought she'd trick you, and you'd lose business. I let Kyle run the business. He promised he'd do his best to take our business to the next level, but he drove the restaurant into bankruptcy. Right now, I don't even have enough money to pay my employees' salaries. Moreover, Kyle has started taking drugs. There's nothing worse than that. I kicked him out of the restaurant and out of the house. I regret hurting you back then. I didn't even check anything and just believed your brother. You know, even today when I was on the way here, I was afraid I'd see something bad. But no. Megan turned out to be a lovely girl. You have such a cozy home and such cute kids. I can see that you're happy. And I'm proud that I raised a wonderful son, who turned out to be much wiser than his father." Danny finally heard the warm words from Daddy, couldn't stand it, hugged him tightly, and replied, "I was really mad at you, Daddy. I won't hide it. I even thought we would never make up. Yes, I made my choice. I love Megan with all my heart, and my sons too. I realized what I am worth on my own, without your support and money. I'm not afraid of anything now. Still, I want you to know I missed you. I kept mentally going back to my childhood and happy youth, remembering how we used to play with you, and how you taught me to drive. I love you, Dad. You helped me to become who I am, and I'm glad we made up. If you want, come visit us more often. We'd be happy to see you here. You won't get bored with our boys." Jack exhaled. They had another drink, and he continued, "Danny, go back to the restaurant, I beg you. Otherwise, our business will completely die. If we work together, we can save our restaurant. I promise I'll never act like this again. This restaurant is all yours. Besides, if you want, move into our mansion with the kids and Megan. We have many rooms and a large garden that children can play there. It's a little cramped here, but I don't insist. Do as you see fit. I'm all alone there. I don't even have anyone to talk to." Danny replied seriously, "I'll come back to the restaurant. I like this business. Besides, I've worked in another restaurant, and I've noticed some innovations. We can implement them in our restaurant too. But I can't say anything yet about moving into your mansion. I have to talk to my family. I can't make decisions like that alone. Sorry." "So, where's Kyle now? Doesn't he live at home? I mean, what's he gonna do without your money? He's never worked a day in his life." Jack replied, "I don't know, and I don't want to know. That scumbag slandered you, lied about Megan, wasted all our money. He almost ruined our business. Let him live any way he wants. Kyle has always been a troublemaker." Danny talked to Megan and the kids, and they decided to accept his father's offer. The one-bedroom apartment was really too small for 4 people. At first, Megan didn't know how to behave in such a huge mansion. She was embarrassed, but then she got used to it. Jack apologized and treated Megan like a daughter, and never stopped praising her and the children. Rumors quickly spread around the city that Jack's son was running the business again, had married a dishwasher, and was raising her children in his father's mansion. Mark found out about it, too, because he was Kyle's best friend, and Kyle was now living in his apartment after fighting with Jack. Kyle was the one who told Mark how to make a lot of money quickly. "Look, Mark, this girl is raising your kids. You know what I mean. Tell her you want to communicate with them, and if she says no, tell her you'll take them away legally." Surprised Mark said in puzzlement, "Why? I don't want to do that. I don't like children. I have no idea what to do with them." Kyle grinned. "Stupid. She'll say no. There's no doubt about it. After that, you should hint to her that if she pays generously, you'll leave her alone forever. And if she doesn't, You'll sue her and take the kids away. Mark scratched the back of his head. He and his friend really needed the money. Mark's parents hadn't given him much money lately, but his drug addiction demanded more and more cash. So Mark agreed. He learned that Megan was now working in the library and waited for her at the school entrance. The woman was very frightened when she saw Mark, recoiled as if she saw a ghost, and whispered, "What do you want? When are you going to leave me alone?" Mark grinned wickedly. "Hello, my love. You know, I underestimated you. You're smarter and more cunning than I thought. You managed to seduce Danny, and now you're living in luxury. You know, I miss my kids. I want to see them." Megan turned pale and felt unwell. She shouted, What do you want from us? You forced me to terminate my pregnancy. Then you put your children in an orphanage. And now all of a sudden you want to see them. I don't believe it. What do you want from me? Why do you need Peter and Alex? You don't even know them. Leave me alone, please." Mark continued, "Whatever you say, I can disappear from your life again. But you have to pay for that. I'm not asking for much, just $100,000, and I'll disappear right away. Danny's rich. It's not that much for him. And if you refuse, I'll take a DNA test, proving their biological father, and take the kids away from you. Just a reminder that my father is the mayor. All doors are open for my family. So, think twice." Megan couldn't take it anymore and spat in his face. "You're so vile. How could I ever love you? Fine, I'll get that money, but you'll disappear from my life forever." Mark smiled and said calmly, "You have 2 weeks. If you don't bring the money in 2 weeks, I will make your life a living hell again." Megan came home not herself. She tried to pretend that everything was fine, but Jack immediately noticed her sadness and wet eyes. He cautiously asked, "Megan, what's wrong? Don't lie to me that everything is fine. I can see that something is wrong. Did you have a fight with Danny? It's okay, you'll make up." The woman couldn't stand it, sobbed, and told everything. She needed to tell everything someone. At the end, she added, "I'm so scared. Mark and his dad have already ruined our lives once. He could do it again. I don't know where I can get that much money to pay him. Otherwise, he won't leave us alone. I know him." The elderly businessman clenched his fists and replied, "What an idiot. He's a friend of my son Kyle, and I think I know who gave him the idea. Don't cry, please. You were alone before, but now you have us. And no one's going to hurt you and the kids. When Danny comes home, we'll have a family council to think about how to teach that rascal a lesson." Danny, hearing this news, was furious. "No, I won't forgive him. I'll go there right now and teach him a lesson." Megan was frightened. "Honey, don't. Please. What if something happens to you? I wouldn't survive that. Let's just give him the money and let him go away." "I'm so scared." Jack intervened and began to explain. "He won't leave you alone. If you pay him once, he'll start demanding money all the time. And he doesn't care about the kids. I think Danny should officially adopt the boys and give them his last name. That's it. After that, Mark won't have any rights to communicate with the kids. And then you will bring him an envelope with fake money and record your conversation. And I'll involve the police. They'll be nearby. Don't worry. The police will scare the creep so badly that he will never bother you again, or maybe they'll even put him in jail. In the meantime, don't leave the house alone, just in case, and the kids should stay home too. I'll babysit them. It's all right, we'll handle it." 2 weeks passed nervously. Danny had officially adopted the kids. Megan was nervous, and Jack was instructing her on how to talk to Mark so he would confess everything. And so the day of the meeting came. Megan had a voice recorder in her pocket and envelopes with fake money in her bag. She walked out of the building and waited nervously near the bench where she and Mark had met last time. Mark was 20 minutes late, but he showed up. Seeing Megan, he grinned contentedly. "Hi there. I hope you brought the money. Good for you. Give it to me. I don't have time. But Megan clutched the bag tightly to her and shook her head negatively. No, Mark, wait. I need a guarantee that you won't show up in my life again. I know it was your father and you who took the children away from me then. What do I have to expect next time? Mark laughed like a madman and then began to mock her. No guarantees. You'll just have to trust me. It was your decision to have those kids, and now you are gonna have to pay for it. What did you expect? My dad is a city mayor now, and he can do whatever he wants. You'd never get your kids back, but my dad decided to stay out of it. He didn't want to ruin his impeccable reputation. But you're right, he's the one who informed the guardianship authorities that you're an alcoholic and drug addict. He bribed your neighbors and sent the kids to an orphanage. We don't know what to expect from you, Megan. What if you want to get our millions? You're stupid, and you made the wrong decision once, so you are going to live in fear for the rest of your life. Got it? Give me the money, and I'll disappear for a while, until I've spent it all. And it's up to you whether to believe me or not. Megan threw the envelopes at his feet. Take it. How can you do that? They're just kids, and they need their mom. But Mark answered indifferently. I don't care. You should have obeyed and terminated the pregnancy 5 years ago. But you didn't, so you are going to pay for it for the rest of your life. I'm not saying goodbye to you. I'll see you soon. He was about to leave, but the police officers came running around the corner and seized him. Mark screamed and resisted. Who the hell are you? Are you out of your mind? Do you even know who is my father? I'll call my father, and you'll all be buried. But one of the policemen said, shut your mouth, you idiot. You've already said enough to end up in jail. Your conversation with Megan was recorded, and you took the money. So we have enough evidence to put you in a detention center on suspicion of extortion and blackmail. Megan filed a report against you, and we caught you red-handed. So we don't care who your father is. Mark looked at Megan with hatred and said, Dad will destroy all of you. Jack and Danny purposely made it public so that Mark's father couldn't solve the problem illegally and keep it quiet. When the whole city found out what had happened, he was fired from the mayor's position for taking away children from their mother. But he managed to get Mark out of jail on bail. The boy was released, but he immediately started drinking heavily. When Danny officially became the father of the children, Megan breathed a sigh of relief. It was as if a heavy stone had fallen from her soul. Life got better again, and another 6 months passed. The boys were getting ready for school. Danny bought them fancy backpacks and new suits. The children went to school. At school, Alex and Peter told a long verse, and Megan applauded and cried. Everything mixed up in her soul. Pride, tenderness, and love for her little ones. She couldn't believe that they were already going to school. Danny was by her side. He supported her sons, praised them, and they looked at him with respect and love. The husband noted philosophically, finally, our troublemakers are in the 1st grade. They're so mature now. Soon there will be other problems, homework, girls, first love. You know, I think our male company lacks a little princess. As blue-eyed as mom and as smart as dad. What do you think about it? Megan laughed and answered quietly in his ear so no one would hear. Everything is in your hands, Danny. I'd be happy to have a daughter. That day all the family came home from work. The children were doing their homework with Grandpa, when suddenly the doorbell rang. Strange. Who could it be? They're not expecting anyone. When Megan saw Vanessa, her failed mother-in-law, on her doorstep, she felt unwell and shouted nervously, "Oh, my gosh. What does your family want from us again? I don't want to hear anything. Stop torturing me." The old woman came in, even though no one wanted to see her. She looked very upset and depressed. Her face was covered with wrinkles, and there was no trace of her former arrogance. Vanessa exhaled and began the important conversation she had long been preparing for. "Megan, I beg you, don't kick me out. Listen to me first. We're in grief. Mark got into a terrible accident. He survived by a miracle. The doctors did everything possible, but he will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He's in depression, doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't want to live. You're a mother too, please try to understand me. My only son is suffering. I've come to ask you to let him see the kids at least once in a while. Maybe it'll make him want to live again. Megan was silent for a long time, and then she answered sharply, I sympathize with you, but I won't give you my children. You're asking me to understand you because I'm also a mother. I understand perfectly well how terrible it is when your son suffers when he feels bad. So why didn't you want to understand me as a mother? Answer me. You forced me to terminate my pregnancy. Then you put your own grandchildren in an orphanage. Where were your maternal feelings then? All you cared about was your own reputation and money, and you didn't care about your grandchildren. Do you have any idea how much I suffered that year? I cried day and night because your husband made me a laughingstock, saying that I was a negligent mother and alcoholic. Where were your kindness and maternal feelings then? Come on, answer me. Why don't you say anything? And now, when trouble came to your house, you finally realized that you have grandchildren. Seriously, your son is a monster. Yes, you raised a monster. Go away. I don't want to see you. Don't ever come into my life again. Ever. My children have a wonderful father now, and a loving grandfather. And you have no grandchildren. Forget about my family. The old woman left. Swallowing her tears, she wandered down the street and realized that this poor girl was right about everything. They had done so many evil things to her. It could not be forgiven. Danny helped his half-brother to get back on the right path. After the tragedy with Mark, when they took drugs, raced through the city at night, and crashed into a lamppost, Kyle changed a lot. He agreed to undergo treatment at the private clinic, and Danny paid for everything. He couldn't do otherwise. After all, he was his brother, albeit a troublemaker. The head of the family wanted to help his daughter-in-law get rid of another stone on her soul. And one day, over dinner, he suggested, what do you think about a picnic outside this weekend? We'll make barbecue and grilled vegetables. The weather is still nice. Megan, I'd really like it if you'd invite someone to join us. The woman was surprised. Who? The businessman replied seriously, your parents. You have a strong and happy family, and we still haven't met. Call your mom, invite her to visit. Let's have lunch together. Chat. Megan turned pale, then quietly replied, I don't think it's a good idea. They kicked me out when I got pregnant. They said I'd dishonor them and wasn't their daughter anymore. My mom does call me sometimes, but I don't pick up the phone. I can't forgive her, you know. They kicked me out knowing I had nowhere to go. Megan suddenly cried. Memories flashed before her eyes. Jack shook his head. I agree, but we're all not saints. I almost lost my son at first, but we made up. We are human beings. We should be able to forgive. Make up with your mom, Megan. She has the right to see her grandchildren. Everyone can make mistakes. You have to give them a second chance. At least try to fix the relationship. Think about what I said. It'll make you feel better. You'll see. The woman could not sleep all night, thinking over the words of her father-in-law, and decided to try. She pulled herself together and called her mother in the morning. Her mother answered instantly and almost shouted, Megan, sweetheart, is that you? Don't disconnect, please. Megan, honey, how are you? I'm so sorry, baby. Your father and I are so guilty. The woman sobbed. It was so pleasant to hear her mother's voice. They hadn't seen each other in so many years. She said, Mom, I'm married. I'm doing well. I'm inviting you and Dad to visit this weekend. My husband and his father would like to meet you, and you can meet your grandchildren. So, will you come? Mom hesitated and replied, I mean me, I'll come. Wait for me. Just give me the address. Finally, the long-awaited meeting took place. As soon as Megan saw her elderly, skinny mom, her eyes sad. All grudges immediately disappeared. She only wanted to hug a dear person. Mother and daughter cried for half an hour, hugging each other. There was no need for words or explanations. The two loving hearts finally met. Valerie apologized to her daughter, cried, and didn't leave her grandchildren for a minute, hugging them and talking to them. They were happy to see their grandmother. They asked her about everything, shared their school achievements. And then Megan and her mother talked for a long time because for so many years a lot of things had happened. But both of them felt so good and happy. And they promised to see each other more often and to be in touch with each other. The whole family was having fun at the big table in the gazebo. And every member of the family was important and needed.